Michigan only played 6 games in 2020. They didn't even get to play their full schedule. Not even close to a full 12-game schedule. Obviously, we're going to look at this 2021 schedule now that they get back to a normal 12-game schedule and see what it looks like. Is it going to give them an opportunity to have a better year, or will it be an even worse year because their schedule is going to be even tougher? Let's get right into it. Again, 2-4 last year. This is the schedule for 2021. As you see the games here, we're going to first look at the games outside of their division. So we know they're going to play their 6 games in their division. Let's look at those games outside of the division, the non-conference games and the games against the Big Ten West. And in the non-conference, they'll play Western Michigan, Washington, and Northern Illinois. All of these games will be home games. They were supposed to go on the road to play Washington last year. Obviously, that did not happen. Western Michigan is a respectable group of 5 teams. Same thing with Northern Illinois. Those are not going to be games where Michigan can just show up and win by 50. Those will be games that could be somewhat challenging for the Wolverines. Then obviously Washington is going to be a really tough game. Really looking forward to that game. 2 teams again that had pretty high expectations last year, not playoff contenders or anything like that, but they just didn't have the years they wanted to have. Washington didn't get to play that many games either. So that'll be a really intriguing matchup there, Michigan versus Washington. And then they'll have Wisconsin out of the West on the road, Nebraska out of the West on the road, and Northwestern, the team that just won the Big Ten West, they'll have them at home. So it really, outside of having to play Iowa, this might be the toughest schedule you could have potentially had against the West. Wisconsin is the early favorite in the West. You play them on the road. Nebraska is going to be one of the more talented teams in the West. Who knows what they'll look like? They have obviously not been great so far in the Scott Frost era, but still they've got talent, they got players, and it's a pretty tough place to play. I would say as far as road environments, you're probably going to play at the 2 toughest places in the West, outside of, again, Iowa. The good news for Michigan is they don't play Iowa, and I think Iowa has a chance to be really good this year. Plus, it is also a very tough place to play. So, still, it's a tough draw there with Wisconsin and Nebraska on the road, and then Northwestern at home. Again, Northwestern is the team that just won this division. Will they be as good as they were last year? Probably not, but still, this is going to be a challenging game for Michigan. So, let's go through the schedule. Again, they open up with Western Michigan on September the 4th. That will be their first game of the year. And like I said, this will not be an easy win. This will not be, I'm not saying they won't win by, multiple touchdowns, but it will not be a game that, again, you're just going to be up by 50 at halftime, put in this backup. So they'll have to fight in this game probably for 4 quarters. Washington on September the 11th at home. Big game. Really, and I said this last year when I was looking at schedules. I said the Michigan-Washington game would be the game that really determines how the season would go for both teams. Whoever wins that game is probably going to go on to have a good year. Whoever loses that game will probably have a pretty rough year. They didn't play, obviously, but I think the same thing could be said about 2021. This is a huge game for both teams. Washington is a team that is maybe a dark horse contender for the college football playoff. I mean, they're way down the list in my opinion, but I think they're a serious contender in the Pac-12. I don't think they're the favorite by any means, but they're a contender. So you never know. If they were able to win the Pac-12 and you look back and have a win over Michigan, maybe they could somehow sneak in there. But again, this is a big game for both teams. Michigan cannot afford to lose it. If they're going to get back to what they expect to have at Michigan, they've got to win this game. It's a huge game. At home, you cannot lose it because they're not going to just run through the Big Ten. There are a lot of tough games. There will be losses. So this, again, is a huge game against Washington. Northern Illinois on September 18th. I think that's really in the same category as Western Michigan. Should be a win, yes, but it might be one you got to fight for a little bit. They'll play Rutgers on September 25th. Home game. A great game last year, and we saw how quickly Rutgers, Greg Schiano has been able to turn them around. They get them at home, though. That's the good news, and I expect Michigan to bounce back. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year. It was just a wacky year, and I expect them to be better. How much better, I don't know. And what will Rutgers look like? Again, big question marks there. So that'll be a big game to start off Big Ten play. And again, if you lose to Washington, you lose to Rutgers before you even get to October, the season is going to be a disaster just like it was last year. They really need to win those 2 games. Now you get into some tougher games. Wisconsin on the road on October the 2nd. Obviously, that's going to be a very tough game. Indiana on the 9th on the road. How about those 2 back-to-back games on the road? Wisconsin and Indiana, 2 of the top teams in the Big Ten. I expect Indiana to be a good team again this year. They've got guys coming back, so that's not going to be an easy win. And Indiana beat Michigan fairly easily last year. Really, both of these games were not competitive for Michigan. Now they play on the road, so that'll be very tough, those 2 games. It would surprise me if Michigan was able to win really either one of them. Michigan State is a game that I think Michigan can win. I know they lost last year, but just overall talent, Michigan is just in a better spot than Michigan State. The game is at home. I like their chances to win this game. Nebraska on October the 30th. Now, we'll have a bye week between Michigan State and Nebraska. This game will be on the road. It'll be a big game. I think this is a swing game. It could really go either way. What kind of Nebraska team are we going to see? We really don't know. And I think the same could be said about Michigan. They've got a lot of question marks. They've got a lot of things to figure out this offseason. This could be a big game, and one that, again, I think could go either way. They'll play Northwestern after that on November 6th. Home game. I have a chance to win this one. It will be tough. Those will be 2 very tough games back-to-back with Nebraska and Northwestern. And then it's Penn State on November 13th. Penn State is a team that I think is going to be a lot better this year. I'm more confident in Penn State turning it around than I am in Michigan. It's mostly just because of the way Penn State finished the season last year. And if we have full capacity crowds, this will be a very tough matchup on the road at Happy Valley, again on November 13th. They'll play Maryland on November 20th, a team that surprised some people this past year. They should be competitive, should be a pretty good team next year. The offense looked, again, surprised and looked pretty good last year. So we'll see what Maryland looks like. And then Ohio State on November 27th, the game obviously going to be very tough for Michigan. They haven't won this game in a long time, but they're at home. Ohio State has a new quarterback. Perhaps there's a chance for them to somehow sneak out a win. I don't know. Again, it'll be tough. But again, you look at this overall schedule, this is a really tough schedule. I mean, it is a very tough schedule. They did not get very lucky with their draw out of the West. You got a very tough game against Washington in the non-conference. And then again, Western Michigan and Northern Illinois, it's not like they're going to get an FCS game or they're going to get a really bad Group of 5 team. There really is no chance for Michigan to play a bunch of backups and figure things out. They're going to be thrown into the fire pretty quickly. And again, this is a schedule that sets up in a way to where if they don't win those games early, that Washington game, that Rutgers game, if they don't win those games early, the season could once again get out of control, and it could be another rough year because, again, this schedule for 2021, very tough for Michigan.